Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. And when he returned home, he heard the music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants, what's going on? Your brother's back, right? Your brother is back. He was told, and your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return. And the older brother was ecstatic and so happy he couldn't wait to join the party. No, it doesn't say that. Well, the older brother was, what's the word? Angry. And refused to go in. Refused to go in. The father came out and begged him. And he replied, all these years, what's that word? Slaved for you. And I never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do. And in all that time, you never gave me, right? You never gave me even one young goat for a feast with my friends. And he goes on to say, yet, when this son, notice the words, not my brother, when this son of yours, right, comes back after squandering his money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fatted calf. And the father said to him, look, dear son, you have always stayed by my side. You've always been with me. And everything I have is yours. Everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate. Now, I love the words there. He's just like, we have to celebrate. We must celebrate this happy day. For your brother was dead, and he's come back to life. He was lost, but he's found. And then Jesus ends the story. And that's a part of the lesson we have to know. That forgiveness rejected, and there's lots of reasons that, again, there's lots of reasons forgiveness can be rejected. But here's two that show up in the story, and here's two that I feel like are powerful, and they're huge in our lives. One of the two big things we see in the story of why forgiveness was rejected is, one, there was a false identity. And two, there was a faulty perspective. There was a faulty perspective. Let me tell you how this works out with us before I go back to the story. Again, kind of in the world of counseling. What happens is that when people struggle to forgive, again, everything's an exception. And everything can't be an exception. If everything's an exception, the problem is you, not the issue, right? Everything's an exception. And people who struggle to forgive, and fear is a big part of that, just rejection. And because of fear of rejection, they reject forgiveness. They reject it for themselves, and they reject it for others. And so in the story, we see this come to life. We know how it works for us. We see it come to life. The son says, I'm a slave. Like immediately in his words, he goes, like he doesn't understand that he's the oldest son. He's the one that was dedicated to God in their culture. He's the one, if anything happened to dad, he would run everything. He was next in line, right? He was the oldest son, the place of highest honor in a family. And he says, I'm a slave. I have slaved for you. I've never once said no. I've never once caused a problem. I never once did this. I never once did it. And you never gave me anything. That's a false identity of who he is. Because the father looks at him and says, no, you're my son. Everything I have is yours. Everything I have. There was all sorts of little goats you could have took at any time you wanted to, and I would have joined the party, right? Like, you need to remember who you are. And the faulty perspective is there because, quite honestly, remember when he said your son versus my brother, right? Remember that? Not only did the older son not really understand how the dad saw him, he thought the dad saw him as a slave. Not only did he not understand that, he had no clue, no perspective at all of how the dad saw his brother. Which is why he had to repeat it. Look, we have to celebrate. This is the transformation from death to life. This is my son whom I love. Just as much as he loves the son, he's like, oh, this is my other son whom I love. And listen, for you and I, when forgiveness at the root is a problem, and we have a hard time walking down this path, there's a good chance that you have a really confused idea as to who you are. That you don't see yourself as a son and daughter of God. You don't see yourself as someone who has been forgiven a debt that was so great that you couldn't do a single thing about it. You don't see yourself, as one who has been lavished forgiveness and love on, and therefore now has the power, because I love that statement where he says, everything I have is yours. You have the power within you now to forgive everyone.